Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. Yeah, whatever. I did that. All right, gang. What's up? It's Friday, 1:43, which my cousin and my aunt used to use as a I love you because it's a number of letters in each word. So, hello at 1:43. I've been a little radio silent this week. Some activity on Slack. I want to go over where I'm at and get on the same page. Just do kind of an update. So you can see me up over here. I'll be ridiculous as always. But on the screen, I'm going to just go through a couple of the high-level places where I'm at and where I'm thinking. And hopefully we can massage that and you can correct me. And we can continue to move forward, hoping to have a working meeting. As you can tell, I don't like meetings for the sake of meeting. I want to get things done. So, reason for the video, I want to go through a couple of the things and then we can go from there. I'm going to go through if you look at the tabs at the bottom, I'm just going to go through the programming timeline, financials, and then tell you about the population filtering. And then I have some ways of thinking about stuff that I've drawn up that I want to share with you. So right now, thinking about these 4 phases, the prospecting phase, the analysis and onboarding, engagement, and then portfolio management. These are basically, you can think of it also as like prospecting, analysis, engagement, and then support. And I'm thinking about even like ongoing support for another 2 years, which is basically just helping with all the free stuff we have anyway for anyone anyway. We'll get there. So in the beginning, in the months, if you look at the 3-month chunks, so before we begin, right, -3 months to 0 to when we begin is prospecting. Month 1 to month 3, we'll be doing the analysis and onboarding with the community. Month 4 to 6, we'll send 3 people out to the community and they'll do the engagement part of the program, and then they'll return. They'll have like a month off before they go to the next engagement. And then from month 7 to 18, that's where we'll be doing ongoing support and doing check-ins and actually helping them build and grow what we've been doing. So I'll use the analogy about growing the things and then connecting the things. One of the actual ecosystem, like biological ecosystem shortfalls when you extrapolate biological ecosystem papers and understandings is in entrepreneurship ecosystems, people want to stand a lot of things up and then they forget to connect them or talk about connecting them and making a flow and a process between them, within them, around them. It's once we have all the pieces, then it works, rather than we need the pieces and the culture community to connect them. So you'll hear about that, about standing things up and connecting them. So I put names at the top here because those where I think maybe our skill sets would be best utilized. So Grant and Audra in the prospecting, thinking about who the people are we're engaging with and taking them from having a conversation to being ready to start doing the next steps. So that prospecting phase 1 to 3, we would be getting all of the ducks in a row. So getting forms filled out, getting point of contacts, making sure we have all of the basic prerequisites met, right? This is kind of like the prerequisite phase where we're helping people get to the point where we can get started. Column D here, Michael and Jen, your analytical mind of working through tasks very diligently, and also analytical in metrics and the analysis there is where my mind is at. So month 1 to 3 is really, I'm imagining we have a metric platform of some kind that is pervasive and everlasting. So it's not a snapshot in time and then good luck because we did XYZ. It's, we're going to get some metrics going, and then there will be an ongoing process to continually measure, right, those metrics. And so the tool is really getting them started with the understanding of how to think about things. And then an engagement and ongoing management will be to have the sensors and triggers to update those metrics. And so I'm thinking Jen and Michael would communicate those frameworks, help communities understand their snapshot in time right now, and onboard them with what that means ongoing, so that then the engagement can happen. The part of the second phase here would also be getting them set up for engagement, getting all the pieces in place so that engagement can happen. And that's where maybe Jen could come in more too. Phase 3 is the engagement. So Evelina and Jared, my thought went right to you too, because of how you like to engage with people and engage with what they're doing and ongoing and helping Sherpa basically them. But this would be 3 people from month 4 to 6, where they would be boots on the ground in the community, helping them identify physical spaces to meet, people who are stakeholders, having the conversations with them, going to the meetings and events, starting the first event that we're going to have, putting people in place, helping put people in place to lead meetings and events. Just all those logistics of how and where and what, and taking all the stuff that Michael and Jen just did, putting it into practice, helping onboard all the people on the ground day to day for 3 months. I want them there doing the work. Justin, then this ongoing portfolio management, these are lots of long conversations of how to and navigation, and now that we have, what do we next, and what about, and how do we consider, and connecting back, and also reframing to not distract from, rather to contextualize what it is that's going on. So just because something pops up doesn't mean everything changes. It means, where do we take that new thing that we think may or may not be new, whatever it is? How do we bring that into the fold of the current context? How do we contextualize these things that communities are going to come upon as we're enacting all these next steps for the community? So just in that ongoing work of just communicating with them and sharing with them and being with them, being a part of that and managing the people that are helping with that. With that being said, I think the team so far right now looks like us maybe doing us. It also may be hiring some people to do these things, and then we manage them. So Justin, Evelina, and Jared, specifically, my guess would be maybe we want to do the first one. I'm not saying we need to, per se. We could set up the guidelines of the playbook. Maybe we have 2 or 3 communities we start with. That would mean, Evelina and Jared, you'd probably be managing 6 to 9 people who are out on engagements. Justin, you might have a team of 4 to 6 who are going to be managing the ongoing support. So one, we need to put ourselves through the motion and do the customer validation and know what the hell we're talking about. But then 2, work ourselves out of a job through documentation and through frameworks and diagrams, so that we can teach the teachers and we can hold them accountable to what the expectation is. So having the expectation set, having the tools and resources for us to do what we're doing, to then enable the people who are going to go out and do that to actually go out and be successful. Tools, resources, frameworks, event strategies, these are all things that I think of when I think of what we're actually going to do and produce and have and discuss with the communities, some of the deliverables. Okay, so timeline. This is a big document. I've been trying to look into ongoing. So this below would be kind of how an ongoing with multiple communities would look. So community 1, community 2, community 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. If 2 people are doing prospecting over these 4 months, then once they're done with this phase, right, analysis person 1 might do 1 and 2, and then analysis person 2 would do 3 and 4. Or does it make more sense for all 3 to work on 1 and 2 together? I don't know. This is an exploration of how we could set that up. So if you have thoughts on that, please share them down here or jump on a chat with me and we can work through it. So above this line is where we'll focus. These are the months right here, right? So again, you're seeing the same -3, -2, -1. This is when we start. Then it's month 1, 2, 3. So these phases here, right? Phase 0, then phase 1, then phase 2, and then phase 3 is the ongoing. This is the prospecting phase. This is when we'll be doing our analysis. We'll be out on an engagement, and then ongoing support for this one community. So above this line, this would be what we're doing with one community and their experience with us. So this is how it could look. And then below that is how I'm trying to model the organization flow through this timeline, this example timeline of January 2021, right? This is not a hard and fast. This is literally just to understand the months and then the engagement during any given month. How many different people or communities might we be working on so that we can realistically do something and not overburden ourselves, that sort of thing. So that's the timeline tab. Financials, ignore this. Here's where we'll start. So if we have 2 leaders, 3 prospects, some analysis folks, engagement folks, some support, and then ongoing support, that'd be 17 people in the organization. I think there's going to be closer to 30. I laid out salaries here. These are hypothetical ideas, right? So if then per year, I just multiply, or that's a total per year, multiplied those 2 to get a total per year for that number of people, and totaled that. Our running just on HR would be about 1.2 million. And then these monthly and then 3 months were just to understand, right, in any given month, we'd be pumping out 35 grand. So again, back to the timeline. If in any given time we're only interacting with 2 or 3 communities, are they bringing in monthly the payroll for us to make payroll? That's what this is, just to kind of begin to start. So then any given single client, I was trying to back it down into there. If on a single client, this is how many people we would be focused on that client for how many months. 3 people at 3 months, yeah. How much is any given person in this role making per month? I just pulled this data from up here. Then this total comes from that monthly times that number of months and that number of people, right? So it's just these coming together. So that total would be about 265,000 for a given client. So maybe a single client would cost us in labor $265,000. So now we're starting to bump over into, should we charge 300,000, $500,000, 600,000 per client? And when I get to the 600,000 number in my head, I think, oh, in phase 0, they owe, to begin phase 0, we need $200,000. To begin phase 1, we need another $200,000. And then to begin phase 2, the engagement where we're actually going out, we need the final 200,000. So maybe to break it up into phases, the overall 600,000 could come as we get the work done. And if maybe after the analysis is done, they say, you know what, we're at 400K, we're actually happy with the evaluation you've given us, we're happy with the things that we now know in the context, we're gonna stop here. And then maybe down the line, they wanna do the engagement, that would just be the additional 200K that takes this phase and then the ongoing support that comes after it. So that's a thought. So these financials, that 265, I'm well aware that's just people doing things. That's no tools, no resources, no travel, no upkeep. That's just people living their life, their ability to pay for their house, their mortgage and food and have some fun, right? So then below that here is, right here rather, is my attempt at the other stuff. So I'm very focused here on the engagement part of the engagement phase, so phase 2, where we're gonna have 3 people needing to travel to the community. They're gonna have to live there. These 3 people will be there for 96 days. We give them if we give them $20 a day about, I think this rooms is, we've already represented 3 people for that number of days, 3 separate people. This is actually redundant here. Right? I'll have to check on that. I had 3 rooms, but each person doesn't need 3 rooms because you've already accounted for each person. Anyway, that seems super low, so. And then they need to eat while they're out on the engagement, so they have $12 per meal, 3 people, they're there for 96 days, and they eat 3 meals for each of those days. So that's 10,000. These 3 things are going back to the community. So this is about what, the 1, 5, and the 16, about 22,000. That's going back to the community, though we're going to bake it into the requirement of the payment to us, and we're going to give it back to them. We want, the idea here is to invest in their community. So an investment in us is an investment in their community, and we're going to help them be stewards of their community. Part of that is going to be starting events and starting companies, starting startups, and some people maybe to help do that and the ongoing work that they're going to do. So $1,000 event capital. I'm curious your thoughts if that's low or high. Startup capital to have a some startup seed money that we will lead them by showing them you need this, and hopefully they'll continue. Well, the idea would be that they would continue something about a startup fund locally, and we would start there with a $5,000 fund. And then a local leader stipend. So imagining 3 people, what is this, $300 per person for at least 18 months. And again, we're going to lead that effort by showing this is what you need. And then we need to cycle people through those roles. So it's not 3 people forever. It's 3 people for, let's say, 6 months to a year, while they also have 1 or 2 shadows following them that will then step into that role. It needs to be cyclical, a cycle. It needs to be in flow here. The movement is the point. So encouraging people to jump on and be a part of the leadership, we're encouraging, and their job is not leading. Their job is to create more leaders. They need to lead by teaching leaders how to lead and then stepping out of the way so that person can lead. So if you add the 265 and the 51, you get 316. So again, if we want anything on top of that, that could look like $500,000, could look like 600,000. I'm interested to hear discussion on those points. We use additional monies for funds, for additional people that I have not represented here properly, right? And then what I have yet to do is to take that 316, bump it to the 5 or the 600,000, and then maybe say we do 4 in a year. Are we covering our ass or are we underwater? What is our break even on clients? So that's where I'm at there. And that's really where this week has been. Population filtering, have population stats. Michael, Jen, anyone's thoughts here? I really want to do, my goal here really is this. So come into the cities we know, put in cities you know, we can start there. After that, I'm thinking I want to choose cities that are 100,000 to, I don't know, 100,000 to 120,000, somewhere in there, and start prospecting them, and then 121,000 to 140,000, right? Just go through the phase chunks of the populations. But a couple of filters I'm thinking about are GDP of the city, somehow understanding the wealth within the city, maybe number of companies that exist within the city, number of high schools, something maybe about the education level of the community, the date the community was founded. Also some interesting metrics on innovation. So I've been thinking about communities. I downloaded all of the Airbnb listings in the US. Thought there is Airbnb listings in the US might have people in the community who are hip to the idea of Airbnb. Thus, an innovation mindset of growth might be there. Also pairing the Airbnb mindset that you must have another property or your property where you want to be innovative enough to bring people to the community. There might be something there to do. Again, the culture of the idea there might be a good fit for what we're trying to help with. So Airbnb listings, and then pairing the cities, that population and GDP, where do they have an Airbnb listing as well? That's a thought. So I'm curious what that list is. And then literally mapping that out. I'd like to then GIS it onto a map, which is very easy on Google My Maps. So beyond that, I wanted to show you a couple pictures I've been drawing about my mindset and where all this is / could go, blah, blah, blah. So that whole idea of over time, I'll start at the beginning here. So this whole flywheel effect, this is how I think of communities. These parts are what we're defining, and some communities make up more or less. It might look more like this, it might look more like that. All of these different makeups are what we're helping them understand. How is your community broken up? And then that circle turned on its side, right here, is going to, over time, hone in on the goals and successes that they're looking for. So that process, that wheel might be spinning faster or it might be spinning slower. And so that frequency, if you think about frequency of frequency waves, right? That might be going faster or slower in its feed right here, right? Or the wheel might be spinning faster or slower in its speed. So if you think of a lathe, speed and feed is what you manage when you run a lathe, right? You're either going fast speed across it, a fast feed across it, or the lathe itself is spinning very quickly. And so that's the speed. And so the same thing here with the community. We can show that by different points up of when we have something, then we implement it, and then we have something, and then we implement it. And then we can represent those even over time in that growth. And that growth, I think, looks like this. So we have two phases. We have growth and maintain. That's all it is. In communities, that's all we'll have. We'll have phases of growth and phases of maintenance, of maintaining. Yeah. So there's different tools and resources you need at each phase. And at that marginal phase in the overall landscape, right? So when you're down here, that growth and maintenance looks different than this growth and maintenance. But that's all we're ever doing. We're either growing or maintaining, right? Growing or maintaining. And so communities might look like these different ones. We can show them that, oh, you can move very fast, but you're not actually getting too much growth. You're doing things, but you're not growing. Or you're growing and there's not much in the maintenance category. You're growing very quickly. No one's really being put in place to maintain the things you're doing. Maybe it's more of a curvature growth, like a gradual curve and then a flat maintain, and curved and then maintain. Maybe it's more at an angle. So I guess the way of, we're trying to help the communities and the stakeholders there get into the mindset of how things could go, so that then they can have a conversation with us about what they want, how they want it to go. So it's never right and wrong, right? It's, well, we've had this experience in the past and here's what's worked. Here's some ideas. Here's what we know. Here's what we understand about this path versus that. and let's choose one and let's get to work on it. Let's see what works. We're not going in saying we know what your community needs, period. We're saying we have some tools and resources and frameworks that we want to share with you. We want to get you on board with them. And then together we want to chart a path and blaze a trail. And so this kind of framework of thinking is about the growth and the maintenance of the overall community. And that really, this is really the output then of the flywheel cone thinking. And of course, Jen and Michael thinking about a stakeholder, concentric circles, some KPI metrics, making sure that we have some community evaluation understanding. So metrics like these, it's funny to do backwards, are again things we want to give them, and then the ongoing measurement feedback loop into those metrics are the thing we're really trying to do. It's not here's a report in time, a snapshot, and now this will continue on into the future. It's here's a framework that we need to update. So as these metrics continue to be updated, the framework itself needs to be evaluated. That's where I'm at. I don't know how long this is, so I apologize. Thank you for sticking through it. Happy Friday. It's now 2:15, so it looks like it was just a half an hour, so that's not crazy. Hope you're all doing super well. I am going to set a meeting to get some work done early next week. I'll send you all an email or a Google Calendar invite. It's gorgeous here. I hope everyone's doing super well. Do not hesitate to call me and talk, even if it's for 5 minutes or if it's got to be a couple hours. I'd rather chat than not. So all the best to you guys. Love you guys.